The night was quiet, but cold wind moved through the empty streets. Like a whisper calling someone to listen, Ryan was tired after a long day of work as he pushed his old bike down the narrow road, his hands covered with grease and his backpack half open. He had only one thought in mind: to reach home and sleep, but fate had other plans for him. As he turned the corner near the alley behind the station, he saw a woman running. Her dress was long and silver, like something rich people wear at big parties, but it was torn at the side. Her heels clicked loudly on the ground, and her eyes were full of fear. She looked behind again and again, as if something was chasing her. Then she saw Ryan. She stopped right in front of him, her voice shaking. "Please help me," she said. "I will pay you. Just say you are my husband right now." Ryan blinked for a second, thinking she was crazy or drunk, but her hands grabbed his jacket tightly. "There is no time," she whispered. "They are coming, and they can't take me if you are with me. You must say it out loud." Before Ryan could even ask her name, 3 black cars turned into the street with no headlights and stopped quietly. Men in black coats stepped out, their faces hidden. The woman pulled Ryan toward the side door of a nearby building. "Say it now," she said louder. Ryan didn't understand much, but something in her eyes told him this was serious. "I am her husband," he said in a confused tone. She looked up at the small camera above the door and smiled a little. "Thank you," she whispered, and pushed the door open. Inside it was dark and silent. The hallway smelled like old paint and fear. She led him quickly up the stairs without saying anything. They reached a room on the 3rd floor and locked the door behind them. Ryan looked around the place, full of strange machines, old books, and a glowing blue plant in the corner. "What is this place?" he asked finally. She looked at him carefully and said, "You just saved my life, or maybe your own. I don't know yet. My name is Elena, and you are now part of this with me. I needed a fake husband because the law protects married women from certain groups. They can't touch me as long as you stay near me, but if you leave, they will take me, and maybe they will take you too now, because they have seen your face." Ryan laughed a little, still thinking this was a prank or a dream. But then the lights flickered and a low sound like a machine breathing came from the wall. Elena ran to the window and pulled the curtain. Slowly, outside, the same men stood looking up. One of them raised a small device and pointed it at the building. Ryan moved closer and saw red lights scanning the windows one by one. Elena stepped back and spoke again, her voice low but serious. "These people, they work for a private company, but not a normal one. They control minds, they erase memories, they own people like me. I escaped 2 months ago, and I have been hiding. They use bloodlines to track us, and I'm part of a rare bloodline marriage. Changes the signal so they can't lock on me, but it only works if you are real and near." Ryan felt cold, even though the room was warm. "So you dragged me into this without warning," he said. "I did not drag you," she replied. "I gave you a choice, and you said yes. You still have a choice, but if you go now, I don't know what they will do to either of us." She walked to the desk and picked up a small photo frame. It showed her with another man smiling. He said he would stay, but he left, and they took him now. I don't know where he is, or even if he remembers me. Ryan stared at her, then at the door, and then at the flickering light above. He felt like a bird in a trap with no walls, but no sky either. Elena sat down on the couch, her eyes tired, but strong. She looked at him one more time and said, "I won't force you, but if you stay, I will tell you everything. If you go now, you might not remember this moment by tomorrow. They can do that. They have done it before." Ryan took a deep breath and walked to the window. The men were still there waiting. Something inside him whispered that this was no dream. He turned to Elena and nodded, one sigh. "I'll stay for now," he said, "but I want answers, and I want the truth." Outside, the red light blinked once, then disappeared. The street was empty again, but something told Ryan the real story was just beginning. The sun was rising, but the world still felt dark too. Ryan, as he sat near the window of Elena's strange apartment, watching the silent street below, while holding a cup of cold tea in his hand, he had not slept, his mind too full of questions and fear, and that new feeling he could not explain. Elena walked quietly into the room, wearing a gray hoodie and carrying a small metal box in her hands. She looked at Ryan and said softly, "They will come again, maybe not today, but they will, and next time. They won't just scan the walls, they will try to enter." Ryan looked at her, then at the box, and asked, "What's that?" She placed it on the table and opened it slowly. Inside were 2 rings, old and dark, like they had been hidden for years. "These are signal blockers," she said. "If we wear them, the system will believe we are married. By blood, not just by words. It will lock our brain signals together." and protect us for some time. Ryan stared at the rings, unsure if he wanted that kind of connection with someone he had met only last night, but he also remembered the red light, the men in black, and the quiet threat in Elena's eyes. Do I really need to wear this? He asked. She nodded. Not just wear it, you must believe it for the system to accept it. This is not normal tech. It reads truth, it learns from feelings and memory. That is why fake things don't work here. Not for long. Ryan stood up and walked to the small bookshelf near the corner of the room, touching the old dusty covers. What is this place anyway? He asked. You have tech from the future, but books from the past. Elena smiled a little and said, because both are useful when you're hiding from the present. Ryan put the ring on his finger and suddenly felt a small vibration through his hand like a soft hum. He looked at Elena, who was already wearing hers. She did not say anything, but Ryan felt something like a quiet voice inside, his head whispering her name. What is this? He asked. She replied, it has started now. We are connected not just in system records, but in a deeper way. You will feel things when I am scared, or when I lie, or when I am in danger, and so will I. Ryan stepped back. The ring felt heavier now. He looked at Elena and asked, how do I know you are not using me just like the last guy who left? She turned to the wall and touched a black screen which lit up, showing a strange map glowing with blue dots and one red line slowly moving across it. That is my tracker, she said. The red line is the hunter signal. It moves when they scan a city. It means they are getting close. Ryan walked closer to the screen. How do we stop them? He asked. She looked at him, her eyes calm but serious. We don't stop them. We hide, we confuse them, we survive, at least until we find the data core. What's the data core? He asked. Elena replied, it's the machine that runs the signal web. It is deep inside the capital and maybe inside. It is the code to break the system forever, but I can't go there alone. It needs two people with matching signals to enter, and now we match. Ryan felt trapped again, but also strangely curious. Who built all this? He asked. She said, people with power and fear and the need to control, people who believe freedom is dangerous and memories are a weapon. He looked at her for a long time. So what do we do now? He asked. Elena closed the screen and walked to the door. Now we go outside and act like normal people. We buy food, we smile, we laugh, and we wait for the moment they make a mistake. Ryan followed her slowly, his ring still warm. As they stepped into the street, the city looked normal. The air smelled like bread and machines, but Ryan now knew every step was watched, every move recorded, every smile tested, and somewhere out there someone was waiting for him to forget who he was again, but this time he would remember. Asterisk. The market was full of sound and color, but Ryan felt like everything moved too fast and too loud, like a dream that did not belong to him. Fruit sellers, shouting machines, cleaning the roads, drones floating above like quiet birds, made of glass. All of it felt too clean, too controlled, too watched. Elena walked beside him in a red scarf, holding a small basket, pretending to pick vegetables, her face calm, her eyes always moving left and right like she was counting something no one else could see. She said, keep your face relaxed and smile if you see the white eyes. Ryan asked, what are the white eyes? She said, the watchers. They wear lenses that glow white for 2 seconds when they scan faces. Ryan did not smile, he did not blink, he just felt sweat move down his back like ice. Elena whispered again, they are not real people, they are shells controlled by the system, and if they mark you, the real hunters come next. Ryan tried to focus on the food in front of him, but his eyes kept catching shadows above rooftops and small flickers in the shop mirrors, like someone else was living inside them. Do they know we are out? He asked. Elena nodded. Yes, they do, but they won't act in the crowd. They wait for corners, for elevators, for locked rooms. They do not like attention. A boy selling paper birds walked up to Ryan and held one out with a smile, but Elena quickly grabbed Ryan's wrist and pulled him away. What was that? He asked, confused. She said, that was not a bird, that was a tag bot. Once it lands on your hand, your signal is there. They turn down a narrow street full of junk and steam pipes. Elena stopped in front of a dirty glass door and knocked 4 times. A voice from inside said one word. Color. She replied, blue, and the door opened. Inside it smelled like metal and old coffee. A man with metal fingers and one eye missing stood behind a wall of screens showing faces, places, numbers, and blinking red lights. He looked at Elena and said, you brought him finally. She said he agreed to stay. The man looked at Ryan and said, you do not know who you are, do you? Ryan asked. What do you mean? The man pointed to a screen showing Ryan's face next to a file marked erased twice, last seen year 5. You were part of this long before she found you. They removed your past and locked you in a fake life. Now you are back where you were never meant to return. Ryan felt the room spin slightly, his heartbeat slow, like time had bent around him. He looked at Elena, who was silent now. She said, "I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything." The man pulled out a chip and placed it near Ryan's wrist, and the ring buzzed again. He said, "The signal match is true, but temporary. You must visit the archive point before sunrise, or the bond breaks. If it breaks, they will locate you within minutes, and if they find you again, they will not erase this time, they will overwrite you." Ryan whispered, "What is the archive point?" The man said, "It's the last clean zone left in the inner city, the only place where memories can be unlocked and truth can be viewed, but it moves. It is never in the same place twice." Ryan looked at Elena. "So we go now?" She nodded and opened her hand, showing a small piece of glass glowing faint blue. The tracker said, "Move south, cross 2 scan zones, and find the wall with no light behind it is a stair that leads to the silence. Inside it, you will find the first part of who you were." Ryan stepped out with her again back into the crowd, but this time his eyes were open, his ears sharper, and his heart carried not fear, but a question. "Who was I before they took me?" Asterisk. The sound came first, like rain hitting glass, but there was no rain and no glass, just darkness and voices whispering words Ryan could not understand. He stood in a long hallway made of metal and mist, and every step echoed like it did not belong to him. Then he opened his eyes and found himself sitting in a cold room under a flickering light, his fingers still shaking from what he saw, a memory, but not his, or maybe once his, but stolen. Elena sat across from him, holding a map made of light that moved like water. She looked tired, but more focused than ever. "We are close," she said. "Only this wall stands between us and the room." They had followed the silent path behind the wall with no light, passed through a hallway full of broken drones and red handprints on steel. Now they stood in front of an old vault door with symbols carved by hand, not machine. "This is where they kept everything," she said. "Records of test subjects, of mind loops, of name changes. And you were in here once." Ryan placed his hand on the cold door and felt it pulse softly, like it remembered him. Then the door opened without a sound, and a heavy smell of metal and dust wrapped around them. Inside the file room, it looked like a graveyard of minds. Thousands of glass shelves filled with memory cores, each one labeled by code and year. Some were cracked, some still blinking, some silent forever. Elena moved fast, reading labels, looking for one name. Ryan did not know which name. She searched. His name was never real, not fully. She stopped suddenly and pointed at a core covered in silver wire. "This one," she said, "this one had your real path, the time before they erased you." Ryan picked it up and his hand shook. The moment it touched his skin, a wave of images rushed through him, a burning lab, a voice shouting, "Run," a child crying in the corner, and then Elena, but younger, and calling his name. He dropped the core and fell to his knees. His voice cracked. "I was part of it. I was not a victim. I was with them." Elena walked closer, her voice calm but cold. "You were with them at first, yes, but then you fought back. You helped me escape. You helped many escape." Ryan looked up. "Then why did they wipe me? Why not just end me?" "Because," she said, "you knew something that could break the whole network, something buried even deeper, something inside your core that even I cannot see. They chose to reset you not once, but twice. That means you were dangerous." Ryan stood again and stared at the wall of memory cores. "And all these people," she whispered, "many never woke again. Some are still used as tools, but some, like you, were sent back into the world with fake lives and new names waiting to be found or to be triggered suddenly." The room lights turned red, a silent alarm. Elena grabbed his arm. "They found us. We move now." They ran back through the hallway as red beams sliced through the walls behind them. One of the cores exploded and sent shockwaves across the steel floor. Ryan looked back once and saw something move in the shadows, not human, not machine, but something that felt like both. Elena shouted, "Do not stop. That is a proxy. It eats memory and becomes the person it catches." They reached the end of the tunnel and slammed the door shut behind them, locking it with the signal ring. Ryan fell to the ground, breathing hard, the core still in his pocket, still pulsing, still calling. He looked at Elena and said, "So what now?" She looked into his eyes and said, "Now we go deeper. Now we reach the machine that started it all. And this time you will remember everything." Asterisk, asterisk. The train did not make sound as it moved across the bridge. Its windows tinted, its engine invisible. Only the wind spoke through the gaps and the city below. looked smaller with every second. Ryan stood near the back door watching the world change from steel and wires to sand and dry grass. His hand gripped the memory core in his pocket, still warm, still glowing like a heartbeat, and hiding. Elena sat in the seat beside him, eyes closed, lips moving without sound like she was reciting names she never wanted to forget. He looked at her and said, "Tell me again why we are leaving and not fighting." She opened her eyes and said, "Because we need to cross the border before they rewrite the system again. Every time we stay too long, it shifts the rules, it changes what you remember. Out there, beyond the wall, they cannot reach you. Out there, the code inside you can wake fully." Ryan looked out again and saw the first wall rising in the distance, a tall black curve with light scanning the sky above it like floating eyes. "We will never get through that," he said. Elena smiled, but it was not real. "We already did once, you just do not remember." The train stopped at a quiet platform where no one stood, no sound, no guards, just dust and wires. Elena stepped down first and walked toward a small gate covered with vines and rust. "This was once an emergency exit," she said. "Now it is our only hope." As Ryan followed, he saw the grass move without wind and the sky flicker like a screen losing power. He stopped. "Do you see that?" Elena turned and her face changed. "Run." She did not wait. From the trees something stepped forward, not human, not full machine, something wearing his face. Ryan froze. It looked like him, same clothes, same eyes, same fear. Elena shouted again, "That is a signal echo. They sent it to confuse you. It cannot hurt you unless you let it. If you believe it is you, then you lose." Ryan backed away and ran toward her, the fake Ryan screaming behind him in the same voice, same words, "Wait, I am real, you are not." The gate opened with a burst of blue light, and they crossed through, falling into dust. The signal echo stopped at the edge and melted into the wind like smoke under sunlight. Ryan stood up, coughing. "Is that what waits beyond the wall?" Elena said. "No, that was the wall. Now the real test begins." They walked through a field of broken towers and metal trees where the ground pulsed like it had veins. At the center was a gate made of light floating above nothing. Two pillars stood beside it, each with a hand panel. "We need both rings here," she said at the same time. "The machine inside will read our signals and decide if we are true. What happens if it says we are not?" Ryan asked. She looked at him but did not answer. They stepped forward and placed their hands together. The gate flashed white and then turned red. "Denied." Ryan pulled back, confused. "What does it mean?" she said. "It means someone changed the bond." He looked at her and suddenly saw the fear, not in her voice but in her silence. "You knew this might happen," he said. "You knew someone else had access to the signal." She nodded. "When they erased you, they left a copy, a shadow version of you hidden in their system. If that version wakes up, it can overwrite the real one. Then how do we stop it?" Ryan asked. She whispered, "You already did by trying to leave. The system does not want you outside, it needs you inside, because you are the virus that can break." I stepped back. So this was never about escape. This was about activation. The core in his pocket turned hot. The air cracked open. The gate pulsed again, and this time it whispered his name, not Elena's, not the system's name, the one he forgot. He turned to Elena, and she was gone. Only her ring remained in the dust. He reached down, picked it up, and felt her memory flow into his. Not words, but her last thought, "You must keep going. They cannot reach you here." He stepped forward alone, and the gate opened. There was no floor, only light beneath his feet, like water with no depth and no sound, but the pulse of something far away, slow and heavy like a drum inside the sky. Ryan opened his eyes, but nothing around him moved. No time, no air, only images floating like broken pieces of a mirror caught in a slow storm. He tried to walk, but each step echoed in ways that felt wrong, like his feet were touching memories, not ground. Then the voice came, soft, familiar, his own. "You are not supposed to be here," it said. "You broke the loop." Ryan turned and saw himself standing in the middle of the glowing plane, but this version wore white eyes, bright face, clean, like the face from before the erasing, before the running. Ryan said, "What is this place?" The other Ryan walked forward slowly. "This is the echo chamber, the place they built to keep what they could not control. You, me, us." Ryan shook his head. "You are just a projection, a memory, a leftover glitch. No, I am the part of you that obeyed the version they kept. The clean version they showed to the world. You were the mistake." Ryan felt a rush of images push into him, wires in his skull, people calling him doctor, a girl named Elena hiding behind a broken screen, and then the order, erase subject 41 or Yan. Stepped back. I gave the order. The echo nodded. Yes, you did, but you also rewrote the key code and buried it in your own core before they could lock it. That is why they erased you, not because of what you did, but because of what you remembered. Ryan clenched his fist. Then let me remember it all. Let me finish what I started. The echo smiled, but it was not kind. You are not strong enough. Your mind still fears the truth. That is why you are here in the trap. This is not a room. This is your own wall. Your last lock. Suddenly, the light around them shattered, and Ryan saw scenes play in fast waves. Elena crying, a boy holding a book with his name. A door marked core chamber, a flash of red, and then nothing. Ryan dropped to his knees. I cannot tell what is real anymore. The echo walked forward and knelt beside him. Then let me show you one last time. The echo placed a hand on his head, and Ryan felt the world fold. And inside that fold, he saw the real memory. He was standing at a terminal typing code fast. Voices behind him shouting, warning lights blinking, and Elena's voice, please don't leave me. He had turned to her once and said, if I stay, they will erase us both. If I go, you must find me. And she had said, then I will find you again, even if you forget me. Ryan opened his eyes again in the white field, but the echo was gone. Only a small black cube remained on the floor. He picked it up and felt it hum, the final piece of the key. The code to shut down the signal web, to burn the tower they built. On lies, he stood up, looked ahead, and saw the exit stair leading up into real sunlight, and as he climbed, he felt the echo whisper one last thing, you were never the memory. You were always the reset asterisk silence that was the first sign something had changed. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of a machine holding its breath. Ryan stood at the top of the stair. Behind him, the memory trap was already closing. Before him, the world had gone still. No wind, no birds. No people, only the tower, a black shape, rising from the ground like it had grown out of the earth, alive but hollow. It stood taller than the clouds, its surface smooth and endless. And at the very top, a light blinking red. Once every 6 seconds, Ryan stepped forward. Each footfall landed softer than the last, because gravity here was not real. This space was a shell, a giant simulation wrapped around one final truth inside. That tower, the source, the machine that held all the names, all the erasures, all the lays. Elena's voice came from nowhere, not in his ear, not in his head, but in his code. She had left her voice behind, and it spoke now through the ring she had once worn. I told you they would try to end us before and I told you they built the tower from stolen mines. But they never expected one of their own to come back for a try and reach the gate. There were no guards, no alarms. No doors, just a question written in white light. Are you who you were? He placed the black cube on the ground, the memory key, and said, no, I am who I became. After you erased me, the gate opened inside. 1,000 minds floated frozen in time, living in loops, repeating fake lives, fake dreams, fake families. All while the tower fed on their thoughts like fuel. At the center, a machine shaped like a person, wires from the ceiling feeding into its spine, eyes, blank hands open, and in its chest the original copy of him. Ryan walked slowly to it. The final echo still frozen in that perfect white lab code, still programmed to obey. He looked at it and whispered, you are what they made me, but I am what I chose. He took the memory key and pressed it into the heart of the machine. A pulse burst outward, lights flickered, the loops cracked. The machine opened its eyes and said in Ryan's own voice, you will destroy everything, no records, no people, no history. Ryan nodded. That is the point. A countdown appeared in the air. 10, 9, 8. Ryan stepped back, looked around one last time, and saw the frozen faces beginning to move. Some were crying, some were screaming, some were just waking up. 3, 2, 1. Light. The tower cracked from the center. The wires snapped like ropes. The machine burned, and the ground swallowed the structure like it had never been there. When Ryan opened his eyes, he was on a train again, but this time there were people talking, laughing, alive. He looked at his hand. The ring was gone, but the memory remained, and far away. In a quiet place, a small plant bloomed blue under the sunlight, the kind Elena once kept on her windowsill. She never really left, and neither did he.